All right, welcome everybody. In this video, we're going to go over some basic pieces of Unity, and we're going to just kind of continue on from our presentation that we had on in Sacramento with Women Who Code, and this is going to be particularly based off of the JavaScript of Unity. So, be ready for that piece, and we're going to get started. So before I kind of dive into the code and everything, just the general layout of Unity is where we kind of have in the top left side, you have the hierarchy. And what that does is that's where your game objects are. So for example, I click on main camera, and here on the right side, you have an inspector, which everything is a game object. The game object's name is right here. And then each of these pieces here are components. So that's going to be useful to remember in the second and third video, but just want to kind of let you know about that. To the bottom left, we have the project tab, which is where all your assets are. So for example, in here, we don't want to be too disorganized, so we're going to create some folders. So let's go ahead and make some folders with scenes. If you just right click, go to create folder, we're going to say scripts. Wait, where'd that go? Oh, no, wait. I want it to actually be all on there we go. And then go to create, go to folder, and then we're going to say images, and then create folder, and we're going to say music. Okay, you'll have more eventually, but this is kind of a good starting point. All right, the next thing we need to do is save our scene. So we're just going to go save scene and go to scenes, and we're going to call this one title. So we're going to hit save, and now we have title. If we click on the scenes folder, this is what you see. Okay, so it's just important to know that we kind of have that going on there. All right, the one thing that helps with how this is organized is this is in the scenes is we're going to make it where we're going to have for each question a new scene. So this is where everything will reside. So now let's jump into the hierarchy area, and we're going to go here. We're going to right click, go to UI. We're going to add an image, and notice how you're kind of offset and whatnot, not knowing what's going on. If you actually double click your canvas, you'll kind of zoom out and you'll kind of see what's where it's at. If you hit play up here, you got a white box. That's all we've done so far. Okay, and it's important to know when you're in here in the play mode, if you decide to add a bunch of things like, oh, let me add another image, and uh, mess with that, and heck, I'll change the color to red. That's cool and all, but if you unplay, all that stuff is gone. Because in play mode, you could do things and see how things are going to be, but once you unplay, they're gone. So just make sure you're careful with that up here. Okay. Now, to go back to the hierarchy side, click on image. We're going to fill this canvas up. So in your rect transform section right here, you're going to see this box in the left side, top left, and this is where you get to set your anchors and positions. So if you hold your alt option key down, it'll actually change, and if you click on the bottom right, it'll actually fill up the whole set right away. It kind of gets makes it a little bit easier, and it kind of sets everything anchored correctly for you at 0, 0. Okay. Now, one thing is, if we made more than one image, it's going to call it image 1, image 2, and so forth. So we're just going to call this BG for background. And just to change the coloring, we're going to make it a bit of a gray. Probably something like that. There we go. Okay. You could do it to whatever color, or if you want to throw an image, you could just put it right here, and you could do that. And now that we have that, we're going to go and let's make our next scene first, and then we'll come back and add everything to this. So what we're going to do is go File, Save Scene As, go to scenes, and we're going to call it Q1 for question 1. All right, now that we're in Q1, there's there. Let's go back to title. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to actually, let's add, oh, whoops, I don't know how this got unchanged. Okay, all right, BG, what we're going to do is we're going to add a text. If we double click, zoom in, it's not the best text. And how to zoom in and out, if you have a scroll wheel, I just go up and back and forth, and you're able to zoom in and out, and that will make it a little bit easier to get to things. If you need to, like, say you're zoomed in really far into here and you're like, oh, I need to go back, just double click on the canvas, it'll kind of shoot you back, and it'll help you. If you double click on objects here, it'll take you to where those objects are in your game. Okay, so let's go back to the text. We're gonna call this trivia game. Let's change this to 40 and middle. That way we have a game that's kind of in the middle of the box. Okay, there we go. You know, not the greatest, but it's doable. And we're gonna change this to title. And okay, hit save. So now we have that, and you know, things are starting to look good. So what we're going to do is let's just add our button. Very straightforward button, UI, go to button. I'm going to get a button right here. I'll just move it down a bit. And if you go to the hierarchy area, go to your text, you could change this to start game. And we could just leave it as is. And if I actually hit play, I got myself that, and it's already set for hovering, clicking, and everything like that. It's just part of the button piece right here. It's normal color, highlighted color, press color, disabled color, and you know, you could change it to what you want. You could tweak with it, so you know, have fun with it. And so now that we have our button here, let's change the word button to start_btn. for button, and we now need to connect it and do a little bit of scripting. So let's go to your scripts folder and let's add our very first script. So we're going to go right click, create JavaScript. Let's call this next level. Okay, and then when you double click, it's going to give you it's going to open up your default editor, and for me it is the Unity default editor, which is mono developed. So I would definitely urge you guys to maintain that and work with that until you get used to how programming goes in Unity. So okay, now the next piece is if you go into Unity, into your help, you got your manual and your scripting references right there. Those are going to be very helpful in for you to get used to some of the API that's available. So especially when you're writing your script, because you have to import certain libraries per se that are being used. So in terms of going to the next level, they have a scene management system, so we need to import that in order for us to utilize that piece. So we're just going to type in import, and then we're going to go Unity engine dot scene management, and let's just do that. Hit save, and just to tell you about what function start does, when the game runs and this script is on an object, anything inside that will run one time. In update, it will continuously run as the life of the game or that object. Okay, we're not going to use either one for this. What we're going to do is we're going to create a new function, call it next level, and we have that. And now what we're going to do is just utilize the scene manager, which is part of the scene management piece. So we're going to just say, hey, load scene, and we want to do, in quotation marks, the next scene. Okay, so we got this code going on. It's not the most exciting piece of code, but we're getting a little used to how this is going to all work. So once you've saved that, you still need to apply it into the game. It's still sitting here in your project, but it's not being used. So let's go ahead and click on the start button and scroll down to the bottom. And I'm just going to drag this over, and now it's in my button. Okay, I put in the button just because that's where we're going to use it right now. You could put it in any object really for this exercise, and you could call it. So it's just really up to you. All right, and now that we're in the button object, right here where it says on click, we're going to click on the plus, because what we're going to do is say, hey, when I click on this button, I want you to run that script that I just made. So you just need to tie it in. So this is called a systems event, and you're probably used to event listeners and things like that. So very similar to where on click, it's gonna listen for this action. So here we're gonna click on object, and this is gonna come up. You just need to make sure you pick the object the script resides in. So this is start button, and then in the function we're gonna look for next level. And the actual name of the function is next level. So now you click on that. So now it says start button, next level, and it's going to here. So it kind of takes care of all the associations for you. So if you hit save, we're going to go to play, and we got our game. Click on it. Okay, I got an error. And you'll do a play pause scenario when you do. And it says scene Q1 could not be loaded because it has not been added to the build settings. Now, there was a reason why I did it this way, is because this is something that commonly happens at the beginning, and you just have to get used to it, where you have to add your scene to the build settings. So if we go to File, go to Build Settings, this is the build settings, okay? And this build settings here just allows you to change if you want to change your platform, right? And what I mean is like, oh, say I want Android. You just click switch platform, it'll switch it for you. Right now, we're just going to stick with the Mac, PCs, and Linux standalone. So now if we go to add open scenes, add the current scene that's open, all right, we need to grab the other one. So let's go to scenes and drag that over. There we go. Now, anything that you use for management or even building your game, if you do not have it in your scenes and build, it will not build it. And, so you could forget a level if you sometimes don't realize it. So just make sure you remember that piece. You'll get error messages if you're trying to access it. So it's not the end of the world, but just keep that in mind. Okay. Now if I hit play and click on this, so I went to the next level, which happens to be a blank screen right now. So it's starting to look a little bit better, and we kind of got that piece done. Now what we got to do is the next step, which is to actually create a question and some buttons and the rest of our trivia game. But I'm going to leave that for the next video. So feel free to play around with this, make a couple more scenes, buttons, attach them, get used to that piece, and I will have more for you in the next video.